Foreman is a fascinating guy. He's a very committed Christian. Named all of his kids George.
Well, that was what we were just saying. That's very. Does that have anything to do with this Christian?
No. Yeah, well.
Joseph, if you are a committed Christian, it's essential that you name all of your children Joseph.
All of my kids have got at least one of their kids with a middle name as McCall.
It's a cool name.
You know, it's the old Scottish clan that came down.
I like that you guys know that, though. And I talked to...
came down from the Highlands.
That's what we need is more Scottish.
William Wallace.
I talked to a new family yesterday, the Dees family, and I was like, well, any relationship to Jason Dees, obviously former pastor here at Valleydale, and they said no, but we're all descended from the same person, and it was like this exact same conversation. I can't remember who it was, but I just think it's great when families like understand their genealogy.
You know, I actually met Lord McCall in Dallas, Texas. Remember,
what was he doing there?
He's in the House of Lords, and he was there. I was invited on 2 or 3 occasions. I think it was 3 occasions when mercy ships were coming into town and they were raising funds for this. And they brought over John Major. I sat, talked to Prime Minister John Major. A really nice
from
guy.
Scotland.
Yeah, from England.
Oh, okay.
He was prime minister there. And, of course, Lord McCall, he's Scottish, and he member of the House of Lords. I just had the unique opportunity. They had a lady there. They brought this lady from Inverness, Scotland, that owned a castle. She has a castle in Inverness. She gave the largest single gift to charity that anybody knows of in Scotland. And I forget how much it was. It was into the millions of dollars. She invited Debbie and myself to come and to have a couple of nights stay at her castle. Never did it.
Why not?
I don't know. And I'm sure she's gone on to glory now because she was, up in age at that time.
Sure.
But I've always wanted to go to Inverness. In fact, as soon as this virus out of hell goes away,
amen. May it be, O Lord.
I'm gonna take Debbie, and you can do an 8-day trip around Scotland on the Hogwarts train. That is an actual train. It's the Scottish rail system. And
so Harry Potter stole it.
You go and you stop and you spend the night. Anyway, I want to get up to Inverness. We're going to get off and just spend a couple of days up there.
That sounds great.
But I'm going to do that, Lord willing, before I die.
Lord McCall willing.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Go to the home of my ancestors.
I have so many questions here. It's two things. First of all, when you talk to Lord McCall, and he's got that rich Scottish accent, is it tough not to slip into it while you're talking to him?
I've been to Scotland a number of times, and by the end of the week,
you just want to talk like that.
You catch yourself kind of just going over, and I'm saying, oh, these people are going to think I'm making fun of them, talking like that.
That's not how they think, though. They just think that you're finally losing your American accent.
Yeah, I guess they do.
And you're finally embracing the beautiful culture.
I caught myself yesterday trying to mimic Goober. Hey, it might be your gauge.
It might be your gauge,
Well,
Andy.
the fact of the matter is, that's how we grew up talking.
You spent years trying to put that behind you, and now it rears its.
And when I said, I thought, well, that's natural. That's normal.
Is Gomer the one? There's a couple guys in there. Is Gomer the one that he's got kind of a Kermit the Frog almost?
Yeah,
kind of
almost.
Thing.
And then the guy comes out, Jim Neighbors, with that rich baritone voice that you think, golly, these two things do not go together. You feel like you're on Sesame Street. Something here just doesn't belong.
One of these things. Yeah, that's true. And then for anyone that doesn't, if you don't know what we're talking about, you got to go back and listen to that message.
If you've never heard Jim Neighbors sing, you watch an episode of Andy Griffith and then go and Google Jim Neighbors and listen to him sing. It's just pretty phenomenal.
Well, being able to do voices and impressions goes with singers a lot, because that's what you kind of have to learn how to manipulate your voice in order to sing. So the Lord McCall thing, I was going to ask you another
we on
question.
yet?
Of course we are. Of course. Welcome to this special Christmas edition of the sermon recap with the Reverend Dr. Donald McCall.
Brunson.
Donald McCall Brunson.
Yeah.
And I'm here as well. My name's Kirkwood Bullis. I'm the worship
the
pastor.
Reverend Doctor.
The Reverend Robert. That's right, Robert Kirkwood Bullis. There's gonna be all people in the comments like, Robert, where'd that come from?
We just made it up.
It's my dad's name.
Robert.
That's it. I can't wait to go home for Christmas and see my
Bruce.
brothers Robert, and Robert. That's a callback to. I'm just kidding.
That's going back to George Foreman.
George
Who
Foreman.
named every one of his kids George.
He did.
Even the girls.
Stop it, really?
Yes.
He has girls too?
Yes. He's got a daughter that boxes, I believe, just like Ali has a daughter
yeah.
that boxes.
Yeah. Boxing's just an amazing sport. We talked about this some, didn't we? I feel like months ago. This just needs to be a greatest hits of all of our conversations that we've had this year.
We'll
just
do like
going
the old
through.
Johnny. Do you remember Johnny Carson at all?
Well, I've seen a lot of clips.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They would go back on anniversaries and stuff, and they do
Him and Ed
all these
McMahon.
clips,
Yeah.
these special clips that
I love watching
I
that stuff.
loved watching Johnny Carson at night.
Yeah. He was a great one for sure. It's interesting because like when Fallon took over, it seemed like most of his best stuff was him like looking back and trying to copy that. That seemed to be
Some of the interviews. I watched an interview the other day with Desi Arnaz,
yes.
who said everything. We talked about this the other day?
We did?
Didn't we?
I don't know.
About the conga? Did we do
That must have been somebody else. Come on, let's do the conga. Get the music playing.
Well, Desi Arnaz says that everything that happened to him was just by accident. He just said he said, I'm not joking. And listen, Desi Arnaz, he had Desi Lou, producer, direct, all this stuff that
Obviously
he did
married
outside
Lucille
of
Ball.
just and I thought this was really big of him. He made the comment because Carson asked him, he said, how would you divide up percentage-wise the success of I Love Lucy between you and, William Frawley and, Vivian Vance, and he said 90% Lucy. He said, you can divide the rest up among us. He said, but 90% it was. And I thought, that says something, a little something about him. I know he was quite a ladies' man,
Philanderer.
but he talked about how everything was a mistake in his life. And even he started the conga craze. Well, it started out of just a goofy. He said that there was a guy, he'd done some work for Bob Hope, just a little bit of stuff. I mean, way back. And then he was playing somewhere in New York City, and a guy in Miami said, hey, come down here, want to hire you, give you a contract, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I went down there, he said, I had a Jewish pianist, I think, now I'm not, a Spaniard on the drums, somebody else on the saxophone, somebody else, an American, just an average man.
Really diverse
band,
yeah.
And he said, we never practiced, never had been together, never practiced. He said, we got down there, he said, it was the most horrible thing you'd ever heard in your life. He said, it was just awful. He said, the guy came out and said, you're fired. He said, I just fired you. $25 a week, I think he said. Because, you're fired. You're gone. And he made the comment, he said, but I got a contract. He said, I don't care what you got. He said, you're fired. He said, well, and I think they went on one more set or something for that evening, and he brought out that big old bongo drum from Cuba.
That's right.
And he said that what I did was, he said, I started pounding on that thing so loud that it would cover up the band, and he said the conga came out of it. He said, I'm telling you everything, which is really kind of interesting, how we think things are horrible, and yet, even, God loved Desi Arnaz, worked things for good. It's just kind of interesting how things you think are going to blow up and be horrible and terrible, and God brings good out of it.
Well, that happens in ministry all the time.
It happens in my life all the time. All the time.
That's to think about that interview with him is interesting to me because that's a different era as well. When it seems like there was fewer celebrities, like, and people knew who everybody was because like everybody's watching the same television channels and like everybody watched I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
That was just a thing. And now there's 6,000 TV shows and you can't keep up with all of it. And it seems like it's tougher to share things.
It was a different day. You know, everybody back then was not a celebrity. Everybody today is clamoring for celebrity status.
They really are.
You know.
Being verified on Instagram and on Twitter. They want it so bad, you know. And
I did not do this yesterday when I was talking about running on empty, but I started looking at some of this yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Or this past week, like Lee Iacocca. Now, Lee Iacocca
cool
was
story.
a phenomenal CEO, a phenomenal businessman, and he talked about the emptiness of success.
Right.
George Harrison talked about the emptiness of fame. He said, I looked around, he said, is this all that there is to it, that I'm going to spend the rest of my life in these, terrible rundown hotels with a bunch of screaming people running at me? And he talked about the emptiness of fame. Lee Atwood, that you won't remember, who was a political operative, I think back, he was Republican, or I cannot remember if he was Republican or Democrat. Anyway, he was a very powerful guy behind the scenes who talked about power and the illusion of that, the emptiness. You got the emptiness of success, the emptiness of fame, the emptiness of power.
Yeah.
Colson comes and talks about the emptiness of position. Vanderbilt used to talk about the emptiness of money. The guy that built Biltmore House.
Yes.
So there's all the things that we think are going to, if I can achieve that, if I can get that, if I can be up in front of people, if I can get up in front of people and their applause and listen to them, and they'll call for me to come and sing or speak or whatever. Empty. Just emptiness. The emptiness of it.
Well, there's more and more people, it seems like, because some contemporary examples for my generation, you've got Jim Carrey that said the same thing.
Yes,
You've
that's
got
right.
John Mayer, the famous musician, again, said the same
Same
thing.
thing.
It's lonely at the top.
Howard Stern.
Oh, yeah.
I just read an article on Howard Stern the other day who said he is the most abrasive, unkind, guy. They clear the hallways in the building where he is. They clear the hallways out so nobody's out there, so he can walk out.
Oh my
so
goodness.
He can go out without having to speak to anybody. What in the world? Listen, I know preachers like that.
Well, and that's where I was going next, because obviously, like,
I know ministers of music like that.
That's deeply
But
hurtful, but we can move on.
None
Oh,
in
okay,
here.
good. Well, like but that happens, like, just as we were saying, like, this has so many parallels in ministry, because there are sadly men and women in ministry where they're like, well, I'm just going to get to the top. I'm going to try to get in front of as many people as possible. But you can speak to the emptiness of that as well. Well,
if that's what you're in it for, you know.
Right.
A congregation is a congregation to me. I don't care if it's 60 or 6,000. I've preached to both. 200 or 20,000. I've preached to both. I've stood in in a number of arenas and preached to, good numbers of people.
Right.
To me, a congregation is a congregation.
It's the same call.
When I started the South Campus in Jacksonville, I think the Sunday we started there, or the Wednesday, I can't remember. I think there was 63 that we started out with there. And I would go from preaching to around, 5,000, 6,000, sometimes, upward towards 7,000. I go to preaching from that and go out there and preach to about 63, 70 people. And I walked out of there, and the Lord just kind of said to me, now you see, it's all the same.
Correct.
It's just all the same. The numbers of people don't make a difference, really. Now, that's what'll leave you empty.
Right.
If that's what you're striving for.
Well, and that's something you've discipled me in that. You haven't, more is caught than taught, but you take in those speaking engagements, and it doesn't matter how many people are there. And I thought about that as well. It's the similar thing worship leading, because last night even my neighbors were like, hey, could you just come over and we want to sing some songs, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you go from
What a fun time of ministry
oh yeah, it's wonderful
with a family or two like that. Yeah,
having everybody sing.
It's I do it for the love of my Lord. I do it for the love of Christ. You do it for the love of people. And if you're doing it for the love of fame, you're not going to be happy.
You're really going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's
you
just
do
more
in the long
emptiness.
run. Yeah.
You're talking about running on empty, like you're just getting to more empty. Like that's never going to fill you up.
It will not, which was the whole concept of the passage yesterday out of Zechariah 6.
Do you feel, what's the quick application to where we are right now? Like, are you seeing and talking to people that are running on empty in the holidays?
Constantly. And the sad thing is most of them are out of the church.
Talk about that. What do you mean?
Well, just so many people, in the church are just running on empty.
Yeah, because they're running from party to party or just gathering to gathering.
They're running everything from fear, apprehension, extreme, one direction or the other.
Right.
Division in politics. They're letting that drive their lives.
Yeah.
Has everything in the country worked out the way I want it? No. Is that the obsession of my life? No. Jesus is.
Right.
There are far greater things to be wrapped up in than the world of politics right now.
Well, and it's sad the way that politics has become kind of intertwined with the virus stuff too, and how you look at that. I've had a couple conversations with people recently, and I just grieve with them and pray with them because they're like, well, if I want to be able to see my family, I have to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
or I can't come to church if I want to see my family. I'm like, good gracious.
And be patient. You're just patient with folks that are going through that. You understand their fears are real, their concerns are real. I don't belittle that at all.
No, that would of course.
But I do wish a lot of people would cling more to the power of Christ.
Well, you opened with that really tangible, and Brody even put it on the screen, that survey.
Did it get up?
Yeah,
Did
it was
you have
up there.
I didn't. I pulled that on you, and that's why I said, look, I didn't ask Brody to do this, and I can't, But I didn't. I couldn't see it because I guess it was behind me. So I wanted to give you clearance in that. Hey, this is not Brody. This is something I brought up. And
he got it up there,
with.
though.
Well,
everybody's looking at it.
Well, that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah,
What's
survey.
the one thing you can do in these days that will emotionally and mentally be a positive, be with the people of God?
Well, and I said that to somebody yesterday, and I can see the Lord's design in this because before the whole COVID era began, it was very, very easy for me to look at somebody and say, hey, there's something supernatural, there's something important, there's something filling about just being physically present with the people of God.
Yeah.
It was an easy thing to say.
Yeah.
But it's really been this era that's taught me to believe it.
Well, and in all honesty, and I don't want to go there, we're not being stupid around here. And in fact, I know a lot of people think, well, people they're in ministry, they're just dumb. We're not. We stay up with everything. We do a deep cleaning here every week.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
We fog out these rooms, the auditorium and all of that. We do wear masks around, even in the office area. We don't have them on right now. We do wear them around here. We're not just running loose and silly with all of this. We take every precaution we can possibly take. We've got hand sanitizers out. Mm-hmm. I go wash my hands multiple times a day.
Me too.
We've got signs up on the doors about masks. We tell you, you've got to be, you know what? People have to be responsible for themselves.
Absolutely.
That's not a popular message. That's very unpopular, is that, hey, you have to be responsible for yourself.
Well,
we tell people to social distance. We've done the video, all of this stuff. We do everything that everybody else does. I do not require, or I do not say it's mandatory, because as a Baptist priest, I can't make something mandatory.
Well, yeah, you say that all the time.
Other than, for me, it's mandatory I'm going to preach from the Word of God.
Amen.
Now, that's a mandate on me. It's a mandate on who I'm going to let in the pulpit.
Well, that was another conversation that I had with people yesterday. Is because we actually had some musicians play with us yesterday. We
Right.
had the orchestra, and we had some additional musicians that we contracted in, and they were just thrilled to be here. And I said, "Well, why are you guys so? Why is this such a big deal?" And they're like, "Well, we haven't played with anybody in 9 months.
Wow.
We haven't played another gig or anything in 9 months." And I was like, I was shocked, and they were like, "How are you guys doing this?" And I said, "Well, same thing that you said. People are being responsible."
Yeah.
And then, but the bigger thing is that the Lord has just been gracious to us. You know, have some people gotten sick? Of course they have, but we haven't had some kind of outbreak.
No,
And the Lord has
no.
protected us through
He
this.
has. He's been very good to us. And I pray every day. I stood in front of the windows facing out, looking out this morning early, just as the sun was coming up, praying for this church, praying, God, give me wisdom. What do I do? What would you have me do?
Yes.
I pray that every morning. What's the best way I can minister to your people, keep your people safe? You have to ultimately, Lord, help us.
Yes. Well, and He has.
He has.
That's
He's
strength.
He's been good to us.
That's-
I think it's a picture. And I think the most loving thing I can do for the church, for the community, for people, is to have church in the safest way I know how, but we're going to have services. Now, I can't make people come, but I'm going to be here.
Absolutely.
And we're going to preach, we're going to sing, we're going to worship,
I'll be right next to you.
So there we are.
Yeah.
You want to go to Zechariah?
Yeah. Why not? Why not? This was. I texted you yesterday because you really, you really got me with some stuff in here that I just did not understand about, like, Christ's office as the prophet and the priest and the king. That was just fascinating to me, because you talked about how, sure, it happened. I mean, as it happened with Zechariah, he's a priest and a prophet.
Yeah.
So that overlap
That's not enough.
existed.
Yeah, there are a couple of those combinations, like Samuel. He was priest, he was prophet, and he was judge. He was the only man in the Old Testament to hold those three offices.
Well, what about Moses?
Moses was a prophet.
Right.
He was not a priest.
Oh, that's a good point. Right. He helped establish the priesthood. Yeah, that makes sense.
See, well, in a sense he was, yes, because he is from the line of Levi.
yeah.
His brother Aaron was the high priest. So Moses could go into the holy place. He was of the priestly. I guess you'd have to back up and say he was priest and prophet and leader. He was unusual too.
Yeah.
But he was not king.
Definitely not king.
No.
Well, at that point there was no kingship, and
No.
he was like judging the people some, but then what's his father-in-law?
Yeah,
came in.
Jethro.
Yeah, comes in.
And says, you can't keep doing this. You're going to kill yourself doing this.
But the point is, like, there, like, so
Moses'
there was
office was a little different than anybody else's. He was the lawgiver.
right.
So, but, if you're looking at prophet, he was a prophet and he was a priest.
So you have Samuel in there as well.
Yeah.
You have the point is there is some overlap, but there's never the trifecta.
No, never.
You can never have.
Nor is there a king and a priest, or a priest and a king.
Well, and talk about, because that was really interesting. You said how, because you're building up to talking about the uniqueness of Christ, that you can't have a king and a priest at the same time. Why? Well, it's a simple matter of the bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
You have the bloodline of David. That's where the kings come from.
Yeah, Judah through David.
Cor-
Hey, listen, now that gets even interesting right
Oh,
there.
well,
You go and read the genealogy of Mary in Luke and read the genealogy of Joseph in Matthew. In Matthew, Joseph comes as a descendant of David from the tribe of Judah through Solomon.
Okay.
But you get into Jeremiah, and Jeremiah, there is a curse on the line coming from Solomon, where God says, there'll not be another one of you guys from the line of Solomon to sit on the throne.
Wow.
It comes down then through Solomon's brother, a son by David and Bathsheba, Nathan.
Okay.
And so when you get to Mary's lineage, Mary comes from the lineage of Nathan. So that the word of God is true.
Hold on.
It just holds,
Amen.
yeah, it just
Didn't want
holds
you to have
true
to do that
down
yourself.
through Nathan. So you see how all of it just hangs barely through a thread and comes down through that way.
Well, I think it's interesting. Man, we're really getting off base, but this is something that's interesting to me is like why if Joseph is not, he's simply the earthly father there. Like why worry so much about his bloodline then?
Well, the bloodline is to show that he was from the tribe of Judah through David. If he is going to foster father Jesus, he would, that's where the world would look to see.
Oh, right.
Jews trace back up through the mother.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it is important to have it on both sides.
For example, Joel Rosenberg, his mother is Jewish, and so he traces back up through his mother. That's how he has dual citizenship now, Israel and America.
That's
great guy, fascinating guy. If you've never read a Joel Rosenberg book, you ought to go get him.
So we started with the lineage there, and that's really showing the kingship of Christ.
Yes,
right.
That's exactly right.
And it shows it on both sides. So like it's through his mother. He was born through his mother, and then like, oh, we're going to look at the father. Well, it's there too. Yep. You can show it in both ways. The gospel accounts of Luke and Matthew. But the point that we were making is like, and it does not come. Sorry, I'm kicking the table. It doesn't come through Aaron. He is not. There's no way that he could be priest in the order of Aaron.
That's out the tribe of Levi. That's a whole different group of people.
That's so, and I never thought about that. We take it for, obviously we know intrinsically, like especially if you grow up in church, study a little bit of theology, that Christ has to fulfill all three of those offices. Mm-hmm. But you talked about how in Zechariah and the rest that for people reading it, it wouldn't make sense. Like you can't have the high priest.
Yeah, to a Jew, they would automatically say, well, wait a minute, you can't have that. That's not possible. It's not doable. It's not achievable. It's not possible to do that because the priest has to come out of Levi, and the high priest specifically out of Levi's son, Aaron. All the high priests are Levitical, but they're descendants of Aaron. All the Levitical priests are not high priests, or could not even potentially be high priests, because they are, even though they're from Levi, they're not from the lineage of Aaron. So it gets very specific. That's why these Jews could give you their lineage. They could go back and back. That was not they knew that, like, your social security. That was their social security number.
Right. It's like, this is who I'm begat this and that. So that was just one of the many ways that Christ defied expectations when he came.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that, like, obviously the people didn't completely understand that, which is why the writer of Hebrews has to talk through, hey guys, like, he actually is a high priest, but he's not a high priest in the way that maybe you would have expected him to be.
Yeah, the writer of Hebrews is showing the supremacy of Jesus Christ. If you want to put over the title Hebrews in your Bible, just put the supremacy of Jesus Christ. And what he's doing here is he's showing you that his priesthood was better than that of Aaron's.
Right.
Now, the argument here is that in Abraham, Levi paid tithes to Melchizedek. See, Abraham goes out, gives tithes to Melchizedek.
That's right.
And in that sense, the Bible says Levi was still in the loins of Abraham.
Right.
In other words, he's going to have a son named Isaac, and down through the way, out's going to come, Jacob, and out of Jacob is going to come Levi, and there would come the priests and the high priest. Out of that would come Aaron. Well, in a sense, Aaron paid tithes all the way back up in his great-great-great-great-grandfather, Abraham.
Yes.
So the lesser always gives tithes to the greater.
That's so cool.
So the Melchizedek priesthood is greater than the Aaronic priesthood.
And so he's saying that Christ is coming from that order.
So he says, here it is. It is evident that our Lord descended from Judah, a tribe with reference to which Moses spoke nothing concerning priests. That's true. And this is clear still. If another priest arises according to the likeness of Melchizedek, who has become such not on the basis of law or physical requirement, you see, but according to the power of an indestructible life.
So does that mean that Melchizedek is a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ?
That I don't think so. I don't think
I had to ask that
because everybody asks that. Hebrews is written. I don't know who writes Hebrews. Everybody's saying, well, it's absolutely Paul. I don't know if it's Paul or not. I don't know who it was. Dr. Criswell believed it was Apollos. Now, there's a lot about that.
It's a really interesting argument.
Because Apollos was so versed in the Old Testament.
Correct.
It was somebody who knew intimately, with detail, Old Testament ritual and ceremonial law. And that's the point that he's making here, is that every point, he's greater than Moses, he's greater than the law,
Yes.
he's greater than the temple,
Yes.
he's greater than the Aaronic priesthood. You just go through here. Jesus Christ, the supremacy of Christ.
It's such a cool, I mean, it's a sermon, right?
Now, who was Melchizedek? I don't know. I had a philosophy professor in seminary who I heard speak on this on one occasion. And I'm trying to think of his name, and colleague, Russ Bush, Dr. Bush, spoke on this, and he suggested that Melchizedek was Shem, son of Noah, who was still alive during the time of Abraham.
Now, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Now, do you say, is that who? I don't know. Could be. I don't know. I have no idea. I do not think that he was an angel. I don't think that. And I don't think that he was the pre-incarnate Christ.
Well, but the point is,
But he could have been. I don't know.
who are we
I
to
don't-
say? There's all
I
kinds
don't
of
know.
things we'll know
There's
in glory.
a lot that we're not told. Everything we know about God
Is here.
is in here, but this doesn't contain everything.
Well, that's
about God.
why one of my favorite verses is that Deuteronomy 29:29. The things that have been revealed belong to us.
To us,
The things that have not
belong to God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because in Hebrews, we see the ultimate purpose of Melchizedek appearing at all, regardless of who he is.
Yeah.
It's then to show an even greater
He's a
priesthood.
type of Christ.
Yes.
He's a forerunner, a type of Christ. In that sense, you get Joseph is a type of Christ.
Right.
You know, you'll come across this several times in the Old Testament, and they're all human. They're not perfect, but they become a type of Christ. This is what's coming.
Yeah, you're talking about the Old Testament Joseph, which are you gonna do a
Yes.
series on him in the spring?
Coming January.
That's
13th.
exciting. So that's going to be our Wednesday night series in January. Pastor's going to preach on the life of Joseph there in the book of Genesis.
Yep.
That's exciting. Man, we've gone all over the place today. I told you we were going to go deep on Melchizedek. I'm glad we got to do that. As always, you guys need to go back. You need to listen to the message from yesterday if you haven't already. There's Gomer Pyle in there. Did we have any other pop culture? I don't think there was any Shirley MacLaine, so apologies for that. But there's a lot of encouragement, and Pastor pointing us to the hope, the real hope of the Christmas season, and that's already available on YouTube, just like this will be. There's a lot of
Yes,
people that
yeah.
watch this on YouTube. So, for everybody,
I've
that's
had people write me and say, "I don't go to church, but I'm not going to miss you in Kirkwood. I don't know what it is about you."
and you
don't
write them
know.
back and say, "You're in sin, but thank you."
Yeah. No, I don't do that. I try not to be judgmental.
No, don't. I'm just giving you a hard time. We're not doing that. But hey, so this is on YouTube, and thank you, and for everybody that's listening to this over your Christmas holiday. Merry Christmas.
And listen, if you want some great music, this is not just to blow smoke, over this direction over here. Those are some great videos that y'all did.
Yeah, Brody
Yeah,
killed it.
these
with the
guys over
videos.
here, we'd never know about it if it wasn't for these guys. Y'all would just be standing in the woods singing. These guys recorded the stuff. So, anyway.
Yeah, that was
Great
good.
collaborative. It's so much fun to work with a staff that is actually happy
Yeah,
and really do love the Lord and each other.
we really do. We have a great time.
That's a rare find in a church today.
Well, I thank the Lord for it every day. We have a really good time.
I do too.
So I don't know. We don't have a meeting to go. We could continue to sit here for another hour. If we
No,
wanted
I've got to go study. You can sit here and do this.
I'll
I
just
gotta
do a
study.
monologue for another hour. I'll do the Kevin Cowherd.
Hey, we checked it every
Colin
morning
Cowherd.
at Valleydale. We check in with our temperature. Our
That's right.
temperatures. Just again,
Right.
another safety check. We do
That's
it
right.
all for you.
We did it.
All of us in this room, 4 of us in this room, 96.9. We're not even average.
We're running cool, baby.
We're running cool here. on a Monday morning.
These people think that it stresses us out to be in front of a camera, but this is just, we're cool as a bunch of cucumbers.
Yeah, we're not even normal.
Actually, if I was eating cucumbers, I think I'd want them cooler than 96.
Yeah.
I'm more of like an ice cold. Do you like cucumbers at all?
Yeah, sure. On salad,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you like hummus? Hummus is like
No, I do not. My wife, my daughter she was in the Middle East for a number of years.
So she learned to like it.
They love it. They go we get somewhere and they order that mess, and I just sit there and think,
All right,
No way.
no hummus in the green room from now on, Brody. Get right on that, please. All right, well,
y'all have a good Christmas.
we'll see you on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Oh, and on the 23rd.
Yeah, 23rd
and
and
it's all going to
24th.
be live streamed too. So the 23rd at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Central, and then
Well,
the
I'm glad
20
you told me
the
that. I was
20.
thinking it was 6:30, but it's 6.
It is
Wednesday
6, right?
At 6.
Okay. Yes, our producers are saying yes.
Yeah.
6
And then
at
we
Wednesday.
have at 3:00 on Christmas Eve memorial service,
Remembrance.
service of remembrance. Debbie and I lead that. If you've lost someone this year, we encourage you come to that at 3:00
That's in the theater.
in the theater. We're not going to be in there for the whole hour, but we'll give you plenty of time to get out and get to the restroom, do whatever you need to do, and then we'll go into because our reservations are closed out.
Yeah. Well, and even for people that now our reservations are full. So even if you have a reservation, you need to get here early if you want a good seat.
Yeah. And we didn't take reservations for the service of
Yeah,
remembrance.
just show up for that if you.
We'll be in the theater, and it'll be a nice time just to come and just let the Lord and the Lord's Spirit minister to your heart.
Yeah, and that's on the 24th.
Yeah.
And then that's not live stream though. We're not gonna. That's a little bit.
Different. Yeah.
It's a little bit different. So then, but yeah, if you're worshiping with us from home, it's all going to be live streamed, and then we'll also see you on Sunday, normal
Yes.
service times, the
Yes.
27th. I'll be out of town. I'll be joining y'all from the announcement video.
Okay.
So
All
I'll
right.
still be there in digital spirit.
Okay.
I'm preaching at my dad's church. Can you believe that?
Good.
So I'm going to have a competing live stream. Is that okay? Does that violate my
Yeah.
non-compete
Well, hey,
clause?
you're going to be preaching for your dad. I've got a son who's going to be preaching
Oh,
for
that's
me. I'm going
right.
to be
That's
here,
exciting.
but they're here for Christmas, and he's going to preach that morning.
I can't wait to listen to
Trey.
it. He's really gifted. I love that guy.
Yeah, his mom says he's the best preacher in the family.
That is so.
But what does she know?
So underhanded of her.
I'm telling you.
All right, we'll leave it there. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. That's one of my favorite lines from It's a Wonderful Life, when Mr. Potter's like, "And a Happy New Year in jail."
Yeah, that's right.